Hikers. There are more out there than one may think. They're just hiding among the trees and fauna of mountainsides. As a hiker familiar with the ways of nature, I can say a common endeavor in the hiking world is staying in touch with nature and ultimately yourself. It's not complicated to stay in touch with these things. All you need is the outdoors. The common space of nature can be accessed anywhere. You don't need a mountain to hike, just some natural landscape and contemplating, and you could be considered a hiker. Now when I say contemplating, I don't mean solving world hunger or the zombie apocalypse. Those topics are fair game, of course, but thinking without the distractions of technology, that's what I mean by contemplation. Now I've mentioned nature and contemplation as spaces for hiking, but portals to enter these spaces can span from simple to extensive. It all depends on what type of hike you're going on, which could be a day hike, an overnight hike, or a through hike, meaning over an extensive period of time, like the Appalachian Trail that goes from Georgia to Maine. Common portals for all three types of hikes are backpack, water, and food. You may not even need pack or food for a day hike, but water is life. Water could be the strongest portal for any hiker, so as long as you have access to this, you're in. Depending on the length of your hike, a buildup of supplies would come in handy as well. Propane, camper stove, water purifier, rope, flashlight, flint or matches, food, sleeping bag, and tent are among some of the supplies needed for an overnight or through hike, as well as some sturdy hiking shoes. All those supplies count as portals into hiking, so as long as you have some water, participate in a casual day hike. To go on a more rigorous adventure, supplies mentioned above are essential to participate. As long as nature is the backdrop, walking around a path or trekking up a mountain means you can participate as a hiker. For an inside scoop on some intensive and expert knowledge, here are a few things to keep in mind when hiking for an extended period of time. Pay attention to trail marker colors on the trees. They signify what trail you're on. For example, if you're following a blue marker, don't accidentally follow the white markers unless you know you need to change trails. Paying attention to the markers prevents getting lost. Another tip concerns purifying water. Whether you have a purifier or are using iodine, it is important to keep in mind where you scoop your water from. The best place to retrieve water is where there is a steady stream. The flow of water is a better indicator that there won't be as much bacteria hanging around that area. And speaking of hanging around, if you decide to pitch a tent and stay somewhere overnight, I'd highly suggest hoisting up a bear bag. By that, I mean put anything that smells like food or deodorant in a bag, tie a rope to that bag, find a tree away from your tent, and hoist that bag as high as you can in that tree. Bears have a keen scent, and depending on what season you're in, they can be out and about and come looking for your food. More extensive and distributed knowledge involves common sense. Stay on the trails if you're unfamiliar with them, stay hydrated and pace yourself, and thoroughly put out fires, especially if you're hiking in a drier season. The basic and common knowledge means respecting yourself and respecting the trails. Such collective knowledge is dispersed through organization of the hiking experience. Nature trails are organized by nature, of course, but maintained by park workers and volunteers. Information and details of trails, such as rigor or layout, is supplied by workers at visitor centers at the base of certain trails and through informational trail guides and books. All of these components are important as they mold importance of purity of trails. We can transform as hikers into helpers by maintaining the trails and spreading by word and by action the importance to keep the integrity of trails for future hikers to come. Through action, the extensive and collective knowledge is continuously dispersed. Now, you don't have to be an experienced hiker to gain this dispersed knowledge. Like I said, most of it's common sense, but even more of it can be picked up along the way when hiking. Hiking can be very solitary, even when you go with another person, but the beauty of hiking is interacting with the strangers you find along the way. A simple word in passing can suffice, or holding a solid conversation at a communal water source or campsite. Through these conversations, you come to find a foundation of appreciation for nature, and in turn, hiking. In these exchanges of words, experience and knowledge can be gained, and if you don't hold any of these interactions though, that common space we covered earlier, nature, should be enough to indicate maintaining and respecting trails is important. As I've said, you can walk in the woods and call it a hike, but status can qualify at various degrees in the world of hiking. Getting from point A to point B can be a major status gain in my book, as completing a trail is what you set out to do. Weighing your pack and finding it weighs more than 20 pounds could be a big win, as it indicates you're doing some rigorous overnight hiking. Having a certain amount of gear could be an accomplishment, as it was for me last Christmas when I completed my essential hiking collection with a water purifier pump and portable camp stove. Simply finding a cool waterfall or funny-looking tree could be a status gainer, as you can now be named Explorer. I consider status as a hiker to be based on how many mountains you've been on and how many miles you've hiked, which all can be found in the leaders known as thru hikers. Thru hikers must have motivation and strength to accomplish their 1,000-mile journeys. The Appalachian Trail, for instance, is 2,200 miles. I've hiked sections of it in Georgia, but thru hikers gain status in their continuous trek from Georgia to Maine. They pave and lead the way in seeing you can accomplish a huge feat as that. You know who else are leaders? Folks who work at REI and Dick's. Most are engaging and beneficial experts on the hiking world, and that's because they themselves have experienced the trails. Not only are they excellent resources, but they are leaders as well. It is difficult to explain the appreciation I have built within me for trees and dirt and streams, all from hiking. I don't know if I learned it from anywhere or if it just grew with each step my foot took me through the Appalachian trails of Georgia or the bare country of the Cohutta Wilderness. All I know is you'll gain something from hiking, from the backdrop of trees, from the quiet contemplation that nature and its hikes bring you.